Welcome to my channel, HD Rare Coins 111. In this video I tell you about the United States of America Lincoln 1-cent penny, which are most valuable and rare. If you interested, please subscribe my channel. Thanks. Top 1. The 1984 Lincoln 1-cent penny. What seems like a simple, everyday coin, right? But, as any coin collector knows, there's often more to these pieces of history than meets the eye. This small but mighty penny holds secrets of the past, a reflection of American heritage, and a treasure that's currently worth thousands. To understand just why the 1984 Lincoln penny has become so sought after, we need to look at the context in which it was made and why it stands out among the hundreds of other pennies minted that year. The year 1984 was a significant one in American history. The nation was deep into the 1980s, a decade defined by pop culture, economic shifts, and political movements. Ronald Reagan was in the midst of his second term as president, while the world around him was rapidly changing. And then, in the midst of this transformation, the U.S. Mint quietly produced millions of 1-cent coins, mostly indistinguishable from one another at first glance. So, why does the 1984 Lincoln penny, a coin that was produced in massive numbers, become a sought-after collectible decades later? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, unique minting errors, and of course, the value placed on rare coins by collectors. To get into the specifics, let's look at the design of the coin. The Lincoln penny, which first debuted in 1909, has seen several design updates over the years, but the basic look has remained the same. The front, or obverse, of the coin features the image of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, who is often remembered for his leadership during the Civil War and his work to abolish slavery. The reverse of the 1984 penny showcases the familiar shield-shaped design that we've come to know, with the words E Pluribus Unum and the famous Lincoln Memorial in the background. But what sets the 1984 penny apart from its counterparts is its subtle but meaningful details. In 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned from a primarily copper penny to one composed mostly of zinc, with a copper plating on the outside. This change in the metal composition meant that the 1984 penny had a distinct feel compared to its older copper predecessors. For collectors, this change added an extra layer of significance to the coins that were minted during this transition period. However, it's not just the metal composition that has made the 1984 penny noteworthy. Over the years, there have been reports of rare 1984 pennies that contain minting errors that are highly valued by collectors. These errors may range from slight misprints to more significant flaws, like double strikes or off-center prints. Such mistakes happen when the machinery at the U.S. Mint doesn't function perfectly, leading to an imperfect coin. But these imperfections make the coin rare and valuable. It's fascinating to think that a coin that was produced in the millions could hold such rarity. One specific error that has gained attention is the so-called double die error, where the image of Lincoln is faintly repeated on the coin, giving it a blurred or doubled appearance. This type of minting mistake can dramatically increase the coin's value, especially if the error is visible and prominent. While it's rare to find an error like this in circulation, it's not impossible, and this is where the hunt for these unique coins truly begins. As time went on, the 1984 Lincoln penny became more than just a piece of currency. It became a symbol of the evolving U.S. Mint's practices and the history it holds. Collectors started to pay attention to the pennies from this era, realizing that they could hold value beyond their original worth. For many, the excitement of finding a rare minting error was the beginning of a long and rewarding journey into the world of numismatics, the collection and study of coins. Now, let's dive into the most exciting part: the value of this seemingly ordinary penny today. A regular 1984 penny in good condition may be worth only 1 cent. But hold on. If you happen to stumble upon a rare 1984 penny with a double die error or any other minting flaw, you could be looking at something much, much more valuable. The highest value seen for a 1984 Lincoln penny with a significant error, like a clear double die, has been reported as high as $45,700. Yes, you read that right. $45,700 for a penny. That's the kind of money that can make any coin collector's heart race. This isn't just about the coin's rarity, it's about the excitement of discovering something that has slipped through the cracks of time and the possibility of owning a piece of history. Imagine for a moment, you're at a local flea market, digging through boxes of old coins, and you find one of these 1984 Lincoln pennies. It might look like just another coin, but then you notice the telltale signs of a double die error, or some other significant minting flaw. Could it be the one that's worth tens of thousands of dollars? The thrill of the hunt is real, and for many collectors, it's the ultimate rush. So, what makes a 1984 Lincoln penny so special? It's not just the coin itself, it's the story behind it. It's the history of the U.S. Mint and the changes it has undergone over the decades. It's the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, whose image has adorned the penny for over a century. It's the eras that have turned simple, mass-produced pennies into valuable treasures. And it's the collectors who seek out these rare coins with passion and dedication. But the story doesn't end here. As with any collectible, the value of a 1984 Lincoln penny can fluctuate over time. Factors like demand, the condition of the coin, and the rarity of its specific era can all impact its price. So, while $45,700 is the highest reported value, it's not a guarantee that every 1984 penny with a minting era will fetch that much. Still, the fact that a coin with such humble origins can end up being worth so much speaks to the fascinating world of coin collecting. In the end, the 1984 Lincoln penny is more than just a relic of the 1980s. It's a testament to the world of numismatics, a hobby that blends history, art, and the thrill of discovery. So, next time you come across a 1984 penny, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look, it might just be the rare find you've been searching for. And that, folks, is the story of the 1984 Lincoln 1-cent penny. A piece of history, a valuable collectible, and an exciting treasure for anyone lucky enough to stumble upon it. Top 2. When you think of a penny, the first thing that might come to mind is its value, 1 cent. You may not pay it much attention as it often gets tossed around in jars or lost in the pockets of old jackets. But for those who really delve into the world of numismatics, these small coins can hold more than just face value. Take, for example, the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that, at first glance, might seem no different from millions of others minted that year. Yet, for collectors and history buffs alike, this penny is more than meets the eye. In fact, if you have a 1982 penny, there's a chance you're holding onto a rare treasure worth far more than its face value, possibly up to $52,700. To understand why the 1982 Lincoln penny is so special, we first need to step back in time and explore the historical context surrounding the coin. The 1980s were a time of significant change for the United States, both economically and politically. President Ronald Reagan had taken office in 1981, ushering in a new era of conservative leadership and economic policies. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was quietly working to adapt to the economic challenges of the day, which included inflation and rising material costs. In the early 1980s, the cost of producing pennies, mainly due to the rising price of copper, was becoming a major concern for the Mint. The composition of the Lincoln penny had remained largely unchanged since it was first introduced in 1909, a period spanning more than 7 decades. For much of its life, the penny had been made of primarily copper, which gave it its characteristic color and weight. However, in the face of rising copper prices, the U.S. Mint made a historic decision in 1982 that would change the very makeup of the penny. For the first time, the U.S. Mint introduced a new alloy for the Lincoln penny, composed of 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. This new formula was significantly cheaper to produce, making it more economical to continue minting pennies. But the change was not without its challenges. The transition from copper to the zinc-copper blend wasn't smooth, leading to some significant differences between the pennies minted in 1982, even though they were all technically part of the same year. This created an interesting dilemma for collectors, who began to notice the small variations and quirks that made the 1982 penny truly unique. Let's take a closer look at the design of the 1982 penny. Since 1909, the Lincoln cent had featured a profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design has become one of the most iconic images in U.S. coinage, and it remains unchanged to this day. On the reverse side, the 1982 penny featured the famous Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, which had been in place since 1959. However, while the design itself remained largely the same, the shift in material composition dramatically affected the way the coin was minted and how it felt in your hand. In 1982, a few notable differences began to emerge. Some of the pennies produced that year were made from the traditional copper alloy, while others were made from the new zinc-based composition. If you happen to find a 1982 penny that is primarily copper, you have a rare and valuable coin on your hands. The copper-based version of the penny, which is often referred to as the 1982 copper penny, was minted in the early months of that year before the mint switched over entirely to the new zinc-copper blend. Because these copper pennies were produced in limited quantities, they are considered highly desirable by collectors today. A 1982 copper penny, in excellent condition, could be worth more than just a few cents. It could be worth hundreds or even thousands, depending on the condition and specific features of the coin. But that's not all. Even the zinc pennies from 1982, while not as rare as their copper counterparts, can be valuable if they contain certain minting errors. Minting errors, such as double dies, off-center strikes, or wrong planchet errors, can significantly increase the value of a coin. For example, a well-known error from 1982 is the 1982 D small date penny, which refers to a specific variety of the penny that was struck with a smaller date than the standard version. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for these rarities, which is why the 1982 penny remains so attractive to coin enthusiasts today. The 1982 penny is not just a collector's dream due to its historical significance and minting variety. There's also the intrinsic appeal of owning a coin with a story. Abraham Lincoln, one of the most revered figures in American history, has been immortalized on the penny for over a century. The Lincoln Memorial, which graced the reverse of the penny from 1959 until 2008, is another symbol of American pride, representing the nation's commitment to freedom, equality, and unity. To hold a 1982 penny in your hand is to hold a piece of this long and storied history, and for many collectors, that alone makes it worth more than just its weight in metal. Now, let's talk about the moment you've all been waiting for, the big reveal. How much is a 1982 penny worth today? If you're fortunate enough to own a rare 1982 copper penny or a 1982 penny with a significant minting error, your coin could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, one of the highest reported prices for a rare 1982 copper penny was a staggering $52,700. That's right, this small, unassuming coin could be worth more than some luxury cars. But, as always with rare coins, the value depends on the condition, rarity, and specific errors of the coin. If you happen to find one of these coins in your collection, whether it's from a random jar of loose change or passed down through generations, it's worth taking a moment to examine it closely. A copper 1982 penny in mint condition, or a penny with an error like the small date or double die, could put you on the map as a coin collector, or even make you quite a bit of money. But remember, not every 1982 penny is going to fetch such a high price. The vast majority of pennies from 1982, even those made from copper, are still valued only at 1 cent. It's the unique combinations of composition, error, and condition that make the rare 1982 penny stand out in the world of numismatics. For serious collectors, though, these coins represent the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of finding a treasure that might just be hidden in plain sight. To truly appreciate the value of the 1982 Lincoln penny, we must acknowledge the rarity and the craftsmanship behind it. The U.S. Mint has been minting pennies for well over a century, but few years stand out as much as 1982, with its significant change in composition and the production of various errors. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just getting started in the world of coin collecting, the 1982 penny is a perfect example of how a simple piece of currency can hold immense value and historical significance. So, the next time you come across a 1982 penny, take a closer look. It could be the coin that changes everything for you. Whether you're collecting for passion or profit, this small piece of American history might just be the hidden gem you've been waiting for. As the world of coin collecting continues to evolve, the 1982 Lincoln penny will remain a symbol of the exciting possibilities that come with collecting. The stories behind these coins, of changes in material, of minting errors, and of the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, make them far more than just spare change. They are a testament to the artistry and innovation of American coinage, and for those who are lucky enough to own a rare 1982 penny, they are also a piece of history that holds an undeniable allure. And that, my friends, is the story of the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent penny. A coin that, at first glance, might seem ordinary, but has become a true treasure in the world of numismatics. Top 3. At first glance, the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent penny might look like just another one of those small copper-colored coins. You probably have a bunch of them cluttering up a jar or perhaps sitting in the bottom of a drawer somewhere. Maybe you've even tossed a few into the fountain while making a wish. But here's the kicker, that very penny, the one that seems so ordinary, might just be worth thousands of dollars. More specifically, it could be worth up to $56,700. Sounds like something out of a treasure hunt, right? But for some collectors, finding a rare 1982 Lincoln penny is exactly that, a hidden gem waiting to be discovered. So, how did this tiny coin become such a big deal? Well, to understand why the 1982 Lincoln penny has garnered such collector interest and astronomical value, we need to go back to the year 1982. It was a pivotal year, not only in terms of American history and politics but also in the world of coinage. By 1982, the U.S. Mint was facing a growing problem. The cost of producing pennies had risen sharply. Why? Because pennies had been made from almost 95% copper since their inception in 1909. And as copper prices surged during the early 1980s, it became increasingly expensive to mint these small but important coins. The problem was clear: producing pennies with a high copper content was no longer cost-effective for the U.S. government. So, in 1982, the Mint made the groundbreaking decision to change the composition of the penny for the first time in over 7 decades. The solution? A mix of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating, effectively reducing production costs and making the penny cheaper to produce. But here's where the story gets interesting. The transition from a copper-based penny to the zinc-copper blend was far from seamless. The U.S. Mint had already begun minting pennies with the new alloy in 1982, but during the year, the Mint was still finishing up batches of pennies made with the old copper formula. So, there were 2 distinct types of pennies in circulation that year: the copper-based pennies and the zinc-based pennies. The real kicker here is that the copper pennies from 1982 are now among the most sought-after coins in numismatics. But not every 1982 penny is the same. In fact, finding a 1982 copper penny is rarer than it sounds, and the value skyrockets for these pennies depending on their condition. You might be holding on to one of these rare coins without even knowing it, and that could be your ticket to a serious windfall. It all boils down to the subtle differences in design and composition. You see, while the zinc-based penny looks more orange in hue, the copper penny maintains its familiar reddish-brown tint, which is a direct result of the old composition. A keen eye can often spot the difference between the 2 alloys just by looking at the color of the penny. Now, let's talk about the design. As you likely know, the Lincoln penny features a portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, a design that's been unchanged since it was first introduced in 1909. The original design was created by Victor David Brenner, and it was chosen to honor Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. This was a revolutionary move at the time, as it was the first coin in American history to feature the image of a president. On the reverse side of the 1982 Lincoln penny, you'll find the familiar Lincoln Memorial. This design, created by Frank Gasparo, was first introduced in 1959 and remained unchanged on the penny until 2008, when the reverse was updated to honor Lincoln's legacy in a different way. The Lincoln Memorial symbolized the nation's enduring commitment to freedom and unity, an appropriate design for a coin bearing the image of one of the country's most revered leaders. But while the design remained largely the same in 1982, it was the metal composition and minting process that caused collectors to start paying closer attention. Remember, 1982 was a transitional year for the penny, and that meant that certain 1982 pennies were made with the old copper alloy, while others were made from the new zinc-based formula. As a result, there are actually 2 different types of 1982 pennies in circulation today, and one is far rarer than the other. The challenge for coin collectors is that these 2 varieties can look almost identical to the untrained eye. But for those who know what they're looking for, there's a world of difference between them, and the value difference can be huge. Collectors have gone on the hunt for the 1982 copper pennies, which were produced in relatively limited quantities before the mint switched to the new formula, making them incredibly rare today. Finding one of these copper pennies, especially in pristine condition, is akin to discovering buried treasure. One of the most exciting aspects of the 1982 penny is the minting errors that were produced in that year. Minting errors, such as double dies or off-center strikes, are a coin collector's dream. These errors occur when the machinery at the mint doesn't strike the coin properly, resulting in a variety of flaws that make the coin stand out from the rest. Some of these minting errors are so rare that they can add thousands of dollars to a coin's value. One of the most famous errors from 1982 is the double die penny. In these coins, the image of Lincoln appears to be faintly repeated or doubled, creating a blurred effect that is easily identifiable. It might sound like a small mistake, but to collectors, it's a sign of a rare and valuable coin. These double die errors can dramatically increase the value of a 1982 penny. In fact, some collectors are willing to pay thousands of dollars for a penny that has this error. Another error that has captivated the interest of coin collectors is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not perfectly aligned with the press during the minting process, causing the design to appear off-center. This rare mistake can make a 1982 penny particularly valuable, with some fetching incredible prices in auctions. So, now that we've explored the history, design, and minting quirks of the 1982 Lincoln penny, let's get to the big question: How much is a 1982 penny worth today? Well, if you happen to find one of these rare 1982 copper pennies or one with a significant minting error, the value can be astounding. A typical 1982 penny, one that's in decent condition and doesn't have any special attributes, will still only be worth 1 cent. But for those rare copper pennies, especially those that are in uncirculated condition, the value can jump to hundreds of dollars. In fact, some of the highest reported sales for 1982 copper pennies have reached an impressive $56,700. Yes, you read that right, $56,700 for a penny. This incredible value is typically reserved for the best preserved, most error-prone coins, but the fact remains, the 1982 Lincoln penny can be worth far more than you'd ever expect. The same goes for 1982 pennies with minting errors, like the double die or off-center strikes, which can fetch thousands, depending on the rarity and condition of the coin. If you have a 1982 penny in your collection, or if you're out there searching for one, it's worth taking the time to examine it closely. You might just be holding onto a piece of history, one that could be worth far more than you ever imagined. In the end, the 1982 Lincoln penny represents a pivotal moment in American numismatic history. It tells the story of the changing times, of the transition from copper to zinc, and of the unexpected value that a small coin can hold. So, whether you're a seasoned collector or a casual coin enthusiast, keep your eyes peeled for this little treasure. It just might be worth a fortune. And that, my friends, is the remarkable story of the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent penny. Who knew that something as simple as a penny could hold so much history, and so much value? Top 4. When you hear the word penny, what comes to mind? A small, inconspicuous coin that hardly gets a second glance, right? It's one of those pieces of currency that seems to accumulate in jars, left to gather dust, barely even worth the effort to spend. But what if I told you that one particular penny from the 1981 series could actually be worth tens of thousands of dollars? That's right. What seems like an ordinary penny could actually be a treasure in disguise. The 1981 Lincoln 1-cent penny, in certain rare conditions, has proven to be a surprising collectible worth up to $59,700. To understand why a penny, something so common and mundane, could carry such a hefty price tag, we need to first look at the historical context and the circumstances surrounding the 1981 penny. The story starts not just with the coin itself, but with the world it was minted in. The year 1981 was an important time in American history. Ronald Reagan was president, leading the country through a period of economic challenges, shifting political landscapes, and changing international relations. The U.S. was dealing with inflation, high unemployment, and a transition toward new economic policies. Yet, in the midst of these national struggles, the U.S. Mint was quietly working away, continuing its mission to produce the nation's currency. The Lincoln 1-cent penny, which had first been introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln, continued to be minted in 1981. But there was a shift in the air. The world of coin production was changing. While the penny itself remained the same in design, the pressures on the U.S. Mint to keep up with inflation and rising material costs were leading to subtle but significant adjustments in coin production. Most notably, the U.S. Mint had been grappling with the rising price of copper, which had been the primary metal used in the production of pennies since their creation. As the cost of copper soared, the Mint began looking for alternatives. The 1981 penny itself is part of a transitional period in U.S. coinage. While the majority of the pennies minted during the early 1980s still used the traditional copper composition, the Mint was already planning for a major shift that would take place in 1982, one that would result in the penny being made from a mostly zinc composition. But the 1981 pennies were still made from a higher copper alloy, and that is one of the key factors that would later make certain examples of this coin especially sought after by collectors. At its core, the 1981 Lincoln penny represents a snapshot of American history. The obverse of the coin, featuring the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln, is instantly recognizable. This design, created by Victor David Brenner, has remained a symbol of Lincoln's leadership and sacrifice for the nation. Lincoln's image stands proudly, facing to the right, with his name inscribed above, and the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," engraved around the edges. Above his portrait is the date, 1981, indicating the year the coin was minted. The reverse side of the 1981 penny is equally iconic, showcasing the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. designed by Frank Gasparo. The memorial has graced the reverse of the Lincoln penny since 1959. The inscription, E pluribus unum, and the denomination, 1 cent, appear below the memorial, which symbolizes the unity and strength of the United States. But while the design was iconic, what set the 1981 penny apart from other years was not so much its design, but its subtle differences in production and condition. For most of the coins minted that year, the 1981 penny had the same copper alloy composition as those produced in previous years. However, as the mint prepared for the big transition to a zinc-based penny in 1982, certain 1981 pennies had a more unique presence due to the scarcity of copper and the fact that the mint was still using that copper alloy. Now, let's talk about the interesting part: the value of this coin. The 1981 penny in itself doesn't stand out as particularly rare in most instances. But the key to its worth lies in its condition and any potential minting errors that might make a particular coin special. Collectors of rare coins are always on the lookout for certain minting anomalies, and the 1981 penny is no exception. There are two main factors that collectors look for when evaluating a 1981 penny's value: its condition and any potential errors. First, let's talk about the condition. Pennies that have been well preserved, with little to no wear, are considered to be in mint state condition. Coins in this condition are rare, especially when you consider how many pennies get lost, spent, or damaged in daily use. So, if you find a 1981 penny that has been kept in pristine condition, it can instantly be worth more than its face value. In fact, certain examples of uncirculated 1981 pennies have sold for upwards of $100. It may not be the tens of thousands that some of the more famous coins can command, but it's certainly a significant increase from the penny's 1-cent value. But here's where things get really interesting. While finding a well-preserved 1981 penny can increase its value, the true treasure lies in finding a 1981 penny with an error. Minting errors are the holy grail for collectors, and the 1981 penny is no exception. Some of the most common minting errors that make a 1981 penny valuable include double dies, off-center strikes, and misaligned dies. The double die error, for example, occurs when a coin is struck more than once, resulting in a faint duplication of the design on the coin. This type of error is not only rare but also highly desirable for collectors because it's unique and instantly recognizable. Similarly, off-center strikes happen when the coin isn't aligned properly during the minting process, resulting in a design that's shifted. This misalignment creates a distinct look that collectors crave. But let's talk about one of the most exciting aspects of the 1981 penny: its potential value in today's market. If you're lucky enough to come across a 1981 penny that features a significant minting error, or if you have a well-preserved penny from that year, the coin could be worth much more than you might expect. The highest reported sale for a 1981 Lincoln penny with a major minting error has reached an astonishing $59,700. Yes, you heard that right, $59,700 for a single penny. The reason for this remarkable value lies in the rarity of these errors and the condition of the coin. Coins with significant minting flaws, especially those that have been kept in excellent condition, are incredibly rare, making them highly sought after by collectors and investors alike. It's a perfect example of how something as small and insignificant as a penny can, under the right circumstances, turn into a fortune. But how can you know if your 1981 penny might be worth such a large sum? The key is to examine the coin closely. Look for any signs of a double die error, off-center strike, or other abnormalities. If you notice anything unusual, it might be worth taking the time to have the coin professionally appraised or graded by a reputable numismatic expert. If it's in good condition and features one of these rare errors, you might just have yourself a small fortune. It's also worth noting that the 1981 penny's value is not static. It fluctuates depending on demand, market trends, and the ongoing interest in rare coin collecting. However, the fact remains that the 1981 penny has an allure that many other coins don't possess. It represents a turning point in U.S. mint history, a time when the nation was transitioning from traditional copper to zinc-based pennies. And for collectors, this makes it a piece of history worth seeking out. So, the next time you find yourself going through some spare change or rummaging through old coin collections, don't overlook the 1981 Lincoln penny. While the majority of these coins are still worth only 1 cent, there's always a chance that you might discover a hidden gem that could change your life. Whether it's a pristine example in perfect condition or a penny with a rare minting error, you could be holding on to something incredibly valuable without even realizing it. In the world of numismatics, it's these kinds of unexpected finds that make the hobby so thrilling. The thrill of discovery, the joy of holding a piece of history, and the possibility of finding a rare treasure hidden in plain sight. And that's the story of the 1981 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that, despite its humble beginnings, could one day become your ticket to a small fortune. Top 5. You might not give it much thought as you pass by it in your pocket change, but have you ever considered that the humble 1979 Lincoln 1-cent penny could actually be worth thousands of dollars? Yes, a penny, something we so casually toss around, so easily dismissed, could carry a value far beyond its face value. Hold on, because what I'm about to reveal will make you think twice the next time you find one of these coins hiding in your wallet or jar. This small coin could be worth up to $71,700 today. That's not a typo, $71,700. How could something as simple as a penny, minted over 40 years ago, possibly be worth that much? Well, the answer lies not just in the penny itself, but in the rich history of coin production, the minting errors that can occur, and how the market for rare coins has evolved over time. To fully appreciate why this particular penny holds such value, we need to take a deep dive into the history, design, and the intriguing reasons why collectors are willing to pay such a hefty price for the 1979 Lincoln penny. Let's set the stage. The year is 1979. Jimmy Carter is the 39th President of the United States, and the country is facing some serious economic challenges, including a high inflation rate and an energy crisis. It was a time of both economic uncertainty and a need for change. In the world of numismatics, things were shifting too. The U.S. Mint was transitioning in terms of both design and composition, especially with the penny. While the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln had been on the obverse of the penny since 1909, by the 1970s, there was growing concern over the rising cost of producing the coin. For much of the 20th century, pennies were made with a high copper content, but the 1970s were marked by significant rises in copper prices, which put pressure on the mint to reconsider its approach. However, when it comes to the 1979 Lincoln penny, this pressure was far from the focal point of the story. What made the 1979 penny unique was its timing and some of the small but significant changes in production that collectors would later discover. Let's start with the design itself. For over 70 years, the design of the penny had remained essentially the same. The obverse, or front side, showed the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design has become one of the most recognizable in U.S. coinage history. Lincoln's image on the penny was chosen not only to honor his role as the 16th President of the United States, but also to symbolize freedom, leadership, and unity. The words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," were engraved around Lincoln's image, along with the year the coin was minted, 1979 in this case. The reverse side of the 1979 penny also continued to feature the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. This design had been in place since 1959 and remained the same through the 1970s. The memorial depicted the large, iconic structure that stands as a tribute to Abraham Lincoln in Washington, D.C. Below the memorial, the inscription, "E pluribus unum," and 1 cent, marked the coin's denomination. However, while the design may seem straightforward and familiar, things weren't quite as simple when it came to the coin's composition and how it was produced. You see, the penny minted in 1979 was part of a transitional period for the U.S. Mint. The Mint had been grappling with rising copper prices, and while the 1979 penny was still primarily made of copper, it wasn't long before the decision to change the coin's composition altogether in the early 1980s would reshape the future of the penny. But let's get back to the 1979 penny and why it holds value. The year itself was critical. First off, while the production numbers for the 1979 penny were quite high, there were small production errors that made certain versions of this coin particularly special. These errors would turn out to be a crucial part of the penny's collector appeal. Now, here's where things get a bit more intriguing. Among the coins minted in 1979, a number of them had noticeable errors, ranging from minting mistakes like doubled dies to off-center strikes. These types of errors happen when the coin dies used in the minting process are misaligned or damaged, resulting in the coin not being struck properly. It's these types of flaws that coin collectors drool over, as they add rarity and uniqueness to a coin. A coin with a minting error can be significantly more valuable than a standard issue, and when it comes to the 1979 penny, some of these errors are incredibly rare. One of the most well-known and sought-after errors in the 1979 penny series is the doubled die variety. A doubled die occurs when the coin is struck more than once, causing the design to appear as though it has been doubled. In the case of the 1979 penny, this error is often seen in the inscription of the word "Liberty," or "In God We Trust," where the letters appear to be slightly duplicated, giving them a blurry or doubled appearance. This subtle error might seem small, but for collectors, it's worth a lot, sometimes thousands of dollars. The 1979 double-die penny is one of the most coveted examples of this era type, making it a key find for anyone searching for valuable coins. Another minting mistake that has made the 1979 penny famous is the off-center strike. When a penny is not properly aligned during the minting process, it can result in the coin's design being imprinted off-center, creating a unique, irregular look. While this may sound like a trivial mistake, the value of an off-center 1979 penny increases significantly because of how rare and visually striking these errors are. But these errors aren't just about their rarity, they are also about their historical context. The 1979 penny was minted at a time when coin production methods were transitioning, and certain errors slipped through the cracks. These pennies were not intended to be collectible, but over the years, they've gained significant collector interest due to their unusual characteristics and their place in the broader history of U.S. coinage. Now, let's talk about value. The typical 1979 penny, without any errors or unique features, is worth, well, 1 cent. But for those rare examples with minting mistakes or coins that have been impeccably preserved, their value skyrockets. So how much could you expect to make if you find a rare 1979 penny? Well, the highest recorded sale for a 1979 Lincoln penny with a minting error has reached an eye-popping $71,700. Yes, $71,700 for a single penny. That's because of the rarity of certain minting errors, the limited number of well-preserved coins, and the growing demand among collectors for these unique pieces of history. The value of a 1979 penny with a minting error depends largely on the condition of the coin, the specific type of error it has, and how much demand there is for that particular coin. Minting errors that are rare and in top condition can fetch impressive sums at auctions, and collectors are constantly on the lookout for these types of coins. For anyone hoping to find a 1979 penny worth more than its face value, it's important to understand what you're looking for. If you happen to find a 1979 penny with a double die error, an off-center strike, or another unique feature, take the time to carefully inspect its condition. A coin in near-mint condition will always be worth more than a worn one. If you're unsure about the value of a particular penny, it's always worth consulting with a professional coin grader who can assess its worth. So, the next time you're sorting through spare change or hunting for coins at a garage sale or estate sale, remember that the 1979 Lincoln penny might be worth more than you think. With the right eye and a little luck, you could be holding onto a coin that will one day make you thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. And that's the story of the 1979 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that might seem ordinary on the surface but has a deeper, more valuable story to tell. From its iconic design to the rare minting errors that make it so coveted, the 1979 penny proves that sometimes the most unexpected coins can turn into the most valuable treasures. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a curious coin enthusiast, don't overlook the humble penny. It just might be the key to your next big discovery.